Check, check, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Frakes.
Red alert! Jay?
Yes.
How are you?
Good, how are you, sir?
What's Patrick Stewart really like? And to what do you attribute the enduring interest in Star Trek, The Next Generation? And
I would attribute it to dreams in hopes of what our future
you're
could
so
be.
much better.
And
Look.
an example
See
of
mine?
our potential and a realistic, if we put forth the effort, potential to make a better society and a better world for humanity.
Yours is so sharp.
well, what?
Our part is staying steady.
What?
Our part is staying steady, though.
Yeah.
Now,
Put your hand
did
on
you
your
watch,
chest. It'll act as a brace.
Deep Throat 9, Deep Space
Like
9?
your
Were you a fan of that show?
Occasionally. It's not my favorite of the series, but it was.
And where do you fall on Voyager, if you pardon the expression?
I'm actually a very huge fan of it.
Janeway, 7 of 9.
7 and 9.
Janeway.
Wow.
Did you watch Orange is the New Black? Excellent choice. All right, and what's your favorite Star Trek movie? First Contact. I'm sorry.
No, it's funny you say that because selfishly that was going to be my very first question and topic because yes, First Contact is by far my favorite piece of Trek ever put together. I'm sorry.
He directed it.
That went very well. Thank you.
First Contact.
First Contract is good too.
First Contact to me is when it really jumped into movie form. Like I enjoyed the original series films, but First Contact
Are you doing the whole thing?
felt so much like a movie, like kind of a bigger universe to me. I'm not sure.
I'll hold your
everybody
camera.
Good writing.
understands that.
Good writing. They say if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. Do you think that's true?
I think so.
What do you think of JJ movies?
I love him.
I do too.
I think he's fantastic.
I
To be
think
honest, I
he's-
think First Contact was the closest to what he's doing.
On a third of the budget, but I'm not bitter. Believe me. I think in the first, I love Pine, I love the cast, I love the way they're shot, but my favorite is Carl Urban, who I think is channeled from brilliant. This is nice. I am home. I'm from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Whenever I see a crowd where they're smiling and they're happy to see me, I'm reminded of my first Star Trek adventure. Have you ever heard this story?
No, I have not.
The show had just started to air, and the audience was incredibly skeptical, as you may or may not remember, of the new Star Trek because they were very loyal to their
That's
Kirk
right.
and Spock and Bones Star Trek. And it was in Syracuse, New York, and it was a dead of winter. It was kind of sparsely attended. I didn't have any idea what was expected of me. I didn't know what any of this world was. And I was waiting in the dealer's room like this, and I was at a table. They were selling the action figures. They had $35 for Geordie LaForge and $40 for like a limited Dylon Data, and they had $50 for Captain Pecan. And at the end of the table, there's a sign that says, "Buy any action figure, get Riker free." True story. Painful, but true. And nothing's really changed in the last 30 years.
Well, it's when you speak about, you came in and you had to face the challenge of being a new crew, a new version of Star Trek. And now the old cast had to go through being questioned constantly about you guys. Now you've almost had to
The old
experience
cast,
it.
I know Shatner.
Right. But as far as
Shatner's never seen the show. Do you remember, this is for you hardcore Trekkers, there was a DVD called the Captain Summit or something like that Whoopi was the moderator on. Is this ringing a bell? What was that? Was it called the Captain Summit? Right?
Yeah.
And it was Leonard and Bill and Patrick and myself, and Whoopi was the moderator. So in the midst of this taping, this beautiful studio and all these cameras, Whoopi asks Bill and Leonard about their thoughts on The Next Generation. And Shatner starts to bullshit about Next Generation. Leonard says,
That's
"Wait a
Shatner.
minute, Bill, you know you've never seen the show." So Patrick and I are intrigued and sit up in our chairs and say, "Really, Bill?" "Well, I." So he harumphed. So I could tell it was true. And he still hasn't bothered to watch it. Why would he?
That's true.
He was in the movie with Patrick, remember? Generations. Two captains in search of one good hairpiece. Thank you very much. The old jokes are the best. Cheap shots are the easiest.
So did you feel it was your turn now to have to deal with questions about the new cast and the new movies?
Well, I like them, so I got no.
So you don't mind
I
talking
get no
about
beef. No, I think JJ's a great storyteller. I think what's happened with the rebooting of the franchise has been incredibly successful. I know some of my castmates are not quite as adamant about it as I am. I think the movies are beautiful, beautifully done, well told. A little convenient that what's his name, Spock just happened to be in one hole in the ground. We just happened to stop it. But I like the stories. And you know who's writing the next one? Or helping to write the next one?
I'm blanking
Come on.
right now. I'm totally blanking. Help me.
Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg. Brought him in as a moderator because he was a specialist. Turns out he's a Doctor Who guy. Are you a Doctor Who guy?
I am partly a Doctor Who as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
And who's your favorite Doctor?
My favorite Doctor? It's tough to choose because I'm a big fan of Capaldi now, but Smith was fantastic. He was something special. So, did you ever read the Who Star Trek crossover comic books?
I just was given a beautiful hardcover copy of it by the wonderful author whose name now eludes me, who's here.
Okay.
The guy who drew it.
Oh, I didn't even realize. Okay.
Dude!
Yeah.
It's on the other side of this wall.
I always thought that was a cool idea though, because technically they could be in the same Earth universe. That could happen. So,
You know Marina Sirtis, my counselor, my anxiety, desperate to become the first female doctor.
oh really?
Just saying. I can see that. Just ask her. You guys ever seen Marina at a convention before?
Oh, yeah.
She speaks her mind pretty freely.
Yeah. That makes for the best band. Do you think maybe we should take some questions?
I think that's a good idea.
Yes. Anybody have anything they'd like to ask Mr. Frakes? You young man, sir?
When you worked with Kathy Landscape and Brett Spiner, were there sketches like behind the set, like were you playing tricks on each other or?
Did we play tricks on each other on the set?
Yeah, I mean like.
Never. We weren't really those type of actors. With us, it was all about the work. No, it was a shameless. My favorite, or one of my favorites, was, you know who Michael Dorn is, who plays that big old dumb stupid Worf, the Klingon with the turtle on his head? He took a raw egg and broke it on Patrick Stewart's bald head. And the yolk and albumin dripped down his face. Fact or fiction?
That's his show, Fact or Fiction.
Fiction, okay.
Mr. Stewart famously tells the story often of how he was quite serious when he first joined the cast.
Yes, he was.
He learned from all of you that you need to lighten up at times and enjoy yourself. Yes,
Yes, indeed. Well, I'm glad he tells that story on himself. Well, he was working with a lot of Americans, and we knew how to have fun. And then he became the silliest one of them. He and Dorn used to wrestle. Oh. It's a message from Brent Spiner. I don't think I'll share it with you.
Any more questions? Right here, sir.
Could you tell us a little bit about your work on Leverage as a director?
Leverage, that's
Absolutely.
good.
Leverage was a television show that John Rogers created, that Dean Devlin from Electric Entertainment and Independence Day Then Timothy Hutton's a star. Have you seen Leverage? You know what Leverage
Yeah.
is? Am I still on? I thought the tone of the show was this great amalgam of heist, action, adventure, and comedy. And that the relationship among the five of them, Timothy and Gina, Beth, Aldous, Kristen Kane, that the writers had found two couples and a leader. Each of the individual characters had their own strengths and their own weaknesses. The plots were something that, as an audience, you could get behind because they were sort of Robin Hood stories and always taking down the big bad, the man. I thought the whole premise of the show was great. I loved doing it. We shot a year in LA and then about 4 years in Portland, Oregon, which I've also loved, which is where we now shoot The Librarians, which I'm here to plug as well, which just got picked up for a second season. Have you seen Timothy Hutton on American Crime yet? Oh,
Yes.
it's going to get an Emmy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Leverage was a delight, and we had a ball doing it. Good part of that family.
Well, yours went up first, man.
I love that your character was a lover.
A lover of sorts, she says.
But you weren't like Captain Kirk, where love 'em and leave 'em type. Was
No,
it difficult to do these love scenes? And did you have any problems with your wife watching those types of scenes?
was it difficult to do the love scenes, and did I have any problems with my wife?
Who I know.
Who you know. I'm married to the beautiful and talented
She knows
Jeannie
her?
Francis. Who you know best as Laura from Luke and Laura. Who you also know, she spent a lot of time in bed with Luke. So it's not as if the, what cliche shall I use? It's not as if the door didn't swing both ways. That's pretty appropriate. Love scenes are strange. They can be incredibly uncomfortable. They can be incredibly easy. And as an actor with an actress, you always let the actress take the lead in terms of how deep the kiss is or how physically intimate you can be. If you're a thoughtful, courteous actor, as I was raised to be. And as a director, when you're directing love scenes, it's sometimes easier, especially with young actors who are uncomfortable, if you choreograph it like you would a fight or a stunt or a dance. I need to have your arm down there so I can see more of her thigh, and is there any way that you can pull her hair back so I can see her lips and that? So you end up doing it, and it takes the nerves of a love scene away often, and they have technical issues to deal with, and then you end up with these beautiful, sexy shots that you've designed, and they feel like they've helped you make it sexy without having to worry about these 100 people watching me be intimate with somebody who is not my partner. So I've learned over the years to handle that part of it. I had the privilege of being in bed on television with a wonderful, gorgeous actress named Donna Mills. Know who Donna Mills is?
Yes, I
When I was
do.
doing Bare Essence when I first met Jeannie Francis. And Donna was an experienced TV lover. And she said, "Don't worry, Frakes. I'm going to double face these sheets to my boobs. You can do whatever you want, and it won't come off." So that was my introduction to what it was like to do a love scene. I don't think she said you can do whatever you want, but it was like, don't worry about it. My nipples are safe. And it was great. It was a practical approach to a ongoing TV challenge. How was that answer?
Yes, sir.
Could you go a little into your transition from a Star Trek actor to a director? Like, how did you get into that role of director?
I was asking about the transition from being a Star Trek actor to a Star Trek director. Here's how it went. On Next Generation, we had 7, 8 regular cast members. So if there was an episode that was data-centric and Brent was in 7 days, the next episode he'd be in 2 days. It was Riker-centric, vice versa. So when you were heavy on a show, you worked all the time, and it was great. You were busy, and you were involved. And when it was a show about Crusher, Riker would be either on the planet Hell somewhere, or on the bridge, and they'd be in sick bay. So there were long stretches where you waited or had, not nothing to do, but there was a lot of it. So I used to go around the set and wander, because you can only take so many naps. So I used to wander around and think, the guy who's got the best job here is the director. This is clearly, he tells the story, he sort of runs the ship, if you will, pardon the phrase. And I shadowed a lot of the directors, and I directed in college, and I knew a little bit about the framing I needed, and I like staging things because I directed some plays. So I voiced an interest to Berman, who was very reluctant to let me do it. So then I got to shadow the editors, which is the part of the making of a television show, which I knew very little about. So I was in the editing room for about 300 hours, seeing what pieces, literally pieces of film, they needed to make a scene work. You need a scene like this, we'd have to have a big high wide shot where we can see how many of you there are, shot from back there where you can see all over you to me, coverage of him, coverage of me, each of you who had a line, coverage of the 2 shot, maybe over 5 shots. So there's a bunch of shots you need to tell the story of the scene that we are currently in. And when you think about what it was that you need, you'd have to have that much time to make it. So I learned that part of it, and I used to go to casting sessions, and I'd go to the sound spotting where you fill in the noises, and then go to the music spotting where you decide when the music would start, what tone of music you would have. Then you go to the final mix, and go to pre-production where they talk about, this is too expensive to build this set, so let's move it over to put it in this set. So I learned a lot of the practicalities, and again, Rick would resist and resist and resist, and I used to call it going to Paramount universities, because I was lucky enough to have a job in a studio on a television show where I could get, for free, by showing interest, information from professionals. It was quite exceptional. And on days when I wasn't working, if I didn't feel like going in, my wonderful wife, Jeannie Francis, would say, you better keep showing up, but they're not going to give you one. So by the time I was lucky enough to be given a script, and it was The Offspring, which was a story about Data building a daughter, which was written by Rene Echeverria, who ended up being his big-time writer. It was his first script. He had submitted as a spec, as his audition script. It was my first script to direct, and on Star Trek, if you got a Data episode, you knew you were going to have a winner, because Brent is a genius. So I had a wonderful script, I had a wonderful lead, and I was so over-prepared by the time I got there, and I had the support of this crazy cast and a circle of friends, that I was very fortunate. And then from that, one thing led to another, and I kept doing it, and transitioned into, and I feel very, very, very blessed to have learned another craft, because I wouldn't want to be trying to put 2 kids through college as an actor, especially an actor who'd been on Star Trek, that's not, except for Patrick and Shatner, a lot of us are having trouble getting acting jobs. So I'm doubly blessed. Too much answer?
No, great.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was pointing behind you. I apologize. We'll get you next then. We'll start in the back, and you're
I
next.
grew up in the 80s and 90s, and there seemed to be like a lot of sci-fi TV and movies coming out at that time. Now there's the push towards like superhero characters, and it seems like sci-fi is not as big as it was. I was wondering your thoughts on like where the state of sci-fi is today.
Is sci-fi not as big as it was? You think? I think sci-fi's never gone away. Yeah.
Not to the degree on TV and in the movies as it was when like I was in the 80s and 90s. Like I'm seeing like a lot of more push towards Marvel and
Well, Marvel certainly has its foot well in the door in the movie world, and their franchises are hugely successful, and they know how to market them brilliantly. And are they not some form of sci-fi genre?
I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of semantics. I think that science fiction as a genre has never gone away. And I mean, Twilight Zone was sci-fi, right? X-Men was sort of sci-fi. I mean, X-Files was sci-fi. Next Gen, certainly sci-fi. I don't think it's gone away. I don't think it's going to go away, because I think it speaks to everyone. And the fan base for that kind of storytelling is Dr. Who.
All right, mine kind of piggybacks on his question as to what are maybe one or two of your favorite things about being an actor as opposed to your favorite parts about being a director.
My favorite parts about being an actor as opposed to my favorite parts about being a director. Very interesting question. Well, one of them I already mentioned as an actor, the naps. This is a true story. There was a point, fourth, fifth, sixth season of the show, during which Brent Spiner was a big napper. Brent offered, he called the producer, the line producer, Mary Howard of the show, and said, can you give me a number that it would cost me to pay you, Mary, or the company, so that everyone in the company, cast, crew, teamsters, grips, electricians, everybody gets a nap. Because he liked to nap. He said, what if I bought a nap from either 3 to 4 or 3 to 3:30? Could you give me a number? That's how serious he was about his nap. She wouldn't do it. I guess it would have set a bad precedent. Then we all would have had to buy naps. There's a certain, what is the word? Not selfish. There's a certain single-mindedness to acting on a show where you are concerned primarily and sometimes obsessively about your own story and your own arc and your own relationships with the characters. And as a director, the exact opposite is what's important, is that the story of the show, the theme, the storytelling, all the characters are of equal, not equal importance, but certainly need to be tended to and massaged and embraced and underlined, and you need to accentuate the ebb and flow, and you need to shadow, and you need to find ways to pepper in some comedy. You need to make the rhythm of the show and to tell the story and stay on the story, stay on the story, stay on the story, tell the story clearly. And as an actor, you trust that the director is going to help you do that. Because an actor, you got to go in with your lines, you got to stay on, you know. So it's two different, unless you're doing both, then you have to do your job and not obsess too much about it. My wife always thought that I was much better, like in First Contact. She said, you were great as Riker in that show. You weren't, you were more relaxed. I said, I was just tired. She said, no, you were, it was true. Because, you know, it was fun to play Riker because I was so obsessed with directing, and as a result, Riker was much more relaxed than he was at the beginning of the show, and he walked with that weird, you know what I mean? You know just what I mean.
Good answer. Yes, sir, right there. Yeah, you, yeah.
I just wanted to ask, what was it like working on Cartoon Gargoyles, and then also not only working on that show, but being voices to a lot of the castmates from the Star Trek show as well.
Sorry.
He asked about Gargoyles.
Oh, Gargoyles, yes.
Gargoyles was too smart for TV. I thought it was brilliantly written. The fans, as I've seen a lot of this week, were huge and loyal and followed it very closely. What happened, I think he's also asked about the predominance of Star Trek actors doing voices on Gargoyles. It started, Marina and I were hired by Jamie, who was the director, casting director of the show, and Greg Weisman, who was the creator of the show. And he liked our voices, but he liked Next Gen as well. And then it started to happen that that became part of the publicity for the show. Was that, oh, these two Star Trek people who are married or whatever on the show are also working on this cartoon show, animated show. Then they started to pepper in, I think Dorn did it, and Brent did it, and Kate Mulgrew did it, and Avery did it, so it became a thing. And I mean, they all have wonderful voices, so the thing that it became served us, and it served them as what was partially a publicity stunt also happened to be useful because the talent was there. So it was a little crossover. It started unintentionally and then became intentional. And that answer I'm giving you from Greg Weisman, who was asked this very question on the Gargoyles panel I was on. I didn't know the answer, but that's the one he uses, so I'll stick with that.
While you're at it then, can you maybe touch on Family Guy and how much fun that was?
God bless. You know, we just did a Family Guy
I love it.
app. Have you seen this? What's it called? How to get stuff? Quest for stuff. That I keep getting hit on Twitter. Jonathan Frakes, at Jonathan S. Frakes, by the way. I need to get my Twitter number up. Brent and Wheaton and Spiner started when Twitter started. They were smart. Seth MacFarlane's a huge Trekkie.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, Seth is producing the comedy that Patrick is starring in. If you know about this, Blunt, which is have you seen the trailer for this thing? It's a very black comedy, very dark about this alcoholic journalist, happens to be English and bald. And it's picked up for 2 seasons. It's on the Starz network, and MacFarlane is the executive producer. MacFarlane is a shameless Trekker. So we've done this app for him, for Family Guy. He just cast Michael Dorn in Ted 2. He's been very loyal.
I love
and
Ted.
He's a funny man.
Phil, recording your day with Stewie must have been...
I wish it was with Stewie, that's the thing. We never did. We never were in the same room at the same time.
Not even you guys?
Not even us.
Oh, one at a time.
Yeah.
That's
I know. I could lie, but why bother?
Might have went down, all of you in a
Oh
recording.
my Lord. It's hard enough to have drinks with MacFarlane.
I see a very deep in your hand right there, Green Lantern. Sweat.
I was standing at the table waiting for Martin to come in today, and you don't walk like a Riker.
No, Riker walks like this.
Yeah, I don't know, Ryan, how do you know that?
That's right. He's right.
I set myself up for that. Go ahead.
You're in the glasses, right?
No, he's not even done. He just started.
Oh, I
He went to
apologize.
observation. I just had to deal. He set me up.
Walk right into it. The question I have is, did you develop that walk just for Riker as part of the character, or did you break something and just kind of fell into it?
I've never heard it put that way. I stole the walk from an actor that I admired that I was doing a show with in New York. My only Broadway show. I was in a show called Shenandoah. It starred a wonderful actor named John Cullum. John Cullum played a cowboy, or father of this ranch family. And he walked not unlike John Wayne. You know how John Wayne used to lean one way?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the Cullum walk is often mistaken for the John Wayne walk, which is stolen to become the Riker walk. Okay? Good answer.
Right on. I had the glasses there with the hats there, yeah.
This is about, that's how you know how Captain Kirk is always leading landing parties. And whenever Picard wanted to...
I never saw the show. Captain Kirk from...
Whenever Picard wanted to, Riker would always stop. Is there a reason...
Are you talking about the away team?
Yeah.
Patrick thought he was Picard. So he thought it would be cool
Here we
if
go.
he, Patrick / Picard, would lead the away teams. Roddenberry tried to explain to him that the first officer has to lead the away teams because you're the captain of the ship. It's more important you stay in the ship. Patrick didn't like that concept. So they broke the rules in the beginning, so Patrick would go to Planet Hell. We used to call it Planet Hell. Stage 16, it was a different planet every week. But magically, everyone spoke English and we could all breathe. But it was filled, there were cats that lived in there, so it smelled like cat piss. It was not a pretty place to work. So a couple of episodes in, Patrick realized, this is ridiculous, Jonathan. If I go on the away team, you have a day off. So magically, he's back on the ship and I'm running the away team. Seemed like a good idea to him at the time.
Right here.
Yes, like when you direct, leverage, and librarians, you work with a single crew for a long period of time in the new series. But then you also did 3 episodes of Castle, including the Nebula 9 one, and NCIS LA. How do you approach working with a drop-in director versus a series director?
Very good question about being on a show where you know the company as a director and going in as a guest director. You're really a guest when you go in to do a show like NCIS LA or Castle, or the shows that. What I find, my approach is, as a director of a show that has been on the air, I used to do a lot of Burn Notice, and then I do Falling Skies. Each show that's established has a look that when you're bonking through the dial, you can spot NCIS LA or one of the NCISs, and you can spot Castle with those tight close-ups, and you can spot Falling Skies, which has this sort of documentary handheld filmmaking style. So, as a guest director, your responsibility is to deliver an episode of their show. You're not there to reinvent the wheel. And if you try to reinvent the wheel, you don't come back. You have a responsibility to do it on time, and a responsibility to do it on budget, and a responsibility to shoot it in a way that the editor and the executive producer or the showrunner, who are the people who ultimately get the show after I'm done shooting it and editing it, it becomes their show again, give them the pieces they need, like I learned when I was directing Star Trek for the first time, give them the pieces they need to make an episode of their show. For instance, on Castle, Rob Bowman, who used to direct a bunch of Star Treks, is the showrunner, the producing director on the show. And I went in to do the first Castle, and he said, Frakes, don't waste anybody's time with any, what he calls multi-move dolly moves, meaning, the dolly would start on you, then we'd track across and we'd find you, then we'd go down there and we'd find you, and we'd come over and then we'd land on you. He said, don't waste anybody's time setting that up and trying to make that work. We'll never use any of it. Shoot me a big master and then get me 3 sizes of close-ups, which is what you do. So he saved me the headache and the time and the burden and the dolly grip and the cameraman, the burden of stuff that they don't use. The exact opposite's true on Falling Skies. Nate Goodman, who was the DP on that show, says what they want us to do, and Rami Obashan and David Icke, what they want us to do is, and Spielberg apparently said, is shoot like war documentary style. So you follow people, you get them talking if you want to, you get behind him, and you come around and you see what he's thinking or what he feels, and then you finish. So you keep your shots going as long as you possibly can, which is exactly the opposite of the Gestalt on Castle. So it's great. It's a great exercise to go and guest direct, but it's the responsibility is to deliver the show the way the show is. On leverage and on librarians, I mean, in the beginning of the show, so we find some of the tricks like the leverage music, those ninja zooms where we zoom into people. Yeah. Those were techniques that Dean Devlin developed, and then he and I became very competitive about who could do the longest version of stuff. So, sorry to be so long-winded. I think it might have been the caffeine.
Chatty. Yes, sir, young man, right there. Go ahead.
My buddy, Adam.
What's your opinion on Star Trek Insurrection?
Star Trek Insurrection?
Yeah, you directed it.
I remember it well, yes. My 2 strongest feelings are, I loved F. Murray Abraham, who played the villain in the show. And my good friend Greg Henry played his second in command. It was written by the late, great Michael Piller, who was one of our strongest writers, with the exception of the fact that the Baku, remember who the Baku were? They were this race of people who allegedly had eternal youth and happiness, and there were no people of color anywhere in the entire Baku village. Not a Jew in the place, no black people, no brown people, no yellow people. It was ridiculous, I thought. We thought. All of us black members of the company felt the same way. And it's stuck in my craw ever since. Why is that thought of as the, and nobody seemed to bring it up when we were shooting it, which is kind of lame of us. But otherwise, I thought it was a wonderful. I love that this story about trying to desperately hold on to the youth, and I love Michael Westmore's makeup work, that great stretched skin on those actors. It was, and the wonderful Donna Murphy was in it. Had to love seeing the Patrick in it. Yeah.
Alrighty, young man in the glasses there. I said ma'am, not man, just so you know. Yes, you right there.
He did say young man.
Yeah.
It's okay, Jay. Just point that out.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a rather odd question.
We'll be the judge of that.
If you could go into the holodeck for an adventure, any adventure, what would it be?
I'll repeat the question for all of you to fantasize about. If I could go into the holodeck for an adventure, what would that adventure be? Is that the question?
Minuet.
Anyone? Would it involve Minuet? Remember Minuet?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Oh, she was a doll.
Carolyn McCormick. Oh my
Perfect.
God. Have you seen, not to be self-plugging as I like to be, have you seen this YouTube series that I do called Nerd Court? Have you heard about this? Oh my Lord. Nerd Court on YouTube. The premise is it's a spoof of People's Court, and it's, Harry Potter versus Lord of the Rings and Batman versus Superman. And the episode that I'm in is Commander Riker, awesome or not? And the two councils are arguing about Commander Riker. One of them calls in a special witness, and who's the special witness? Jonathan Frakes. It's worth the 8 minutes of your life that it'll take. Please view and enjoy.
That's exciting. There's so much exciting stuff coming up on the web. Do you ever think more of getting more involved, maybe directing?
I'm certainly thinking about it now. I did this for Gary Whitta. Yes, the
Con Man with Nathan Fillion.
Nathan and Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, that's
He
exciting.
called me and asked me if I'd want to do it. I said, of course I want to do it. Yeah. They raised $2.5 million in about a week.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What you can do.
Wow.
Do your own thing.
That's the thing with the YouTube. I didn't know that there was so much YouTube presence and that there were YouTube stars and YouTube. It's fabulous.
It is. Yes, sir, right here.
What was your favorite Next Gen episode you have done?
My favorite Next Gen episode. I have a soft spot, obviously, for The Offspring. I think the best thing we did was Best of Both Worlds Parts 1 and 2, where we introduced the Borg and left Patrick for dead. He wasn't really dead. He was Locutus of Borg.
Easily, Next Gen easily had one of the greatest finales in television history.
Oh, All Good Things?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was so sad.
It was, but
Strangely sad, considering the fact that we were all playing poker, knowing that in a week we were going to start a movie together. So it wasn't that kind of, oh my God, we'll never see each other again. We were lucky enough to have another gig. We were going on to Generations. They had actually started, Walter and Jimmy, may he rest in peace, and Bill had started shooting Generations 2 stages over when we were finishing the last episode of, yeah. Those are the kind of exciting facts you get when you go to these cons.
great show.
I played a doctor, a very, very troubled, nasty, mean-spirited, sick doctor on a show called Criminal Minds. And this gentleman asked, what makes me decide, after reading the script, what to do and what not to do. I never read the script. I was offered the job, and I was so thrilled to get an acting job, I said yes. I still haven't let my daughter see that show. That's a sick, weird show. But people can't take their eyes off it. Yeah, I'm pretty much the guy who says yes. So that's unless it's unless it's blue or it's really embarrassing in some form. But to say yes to a guest spot on a network show seemed to me at that point to be a good idea. Thank you very much. He said, by the way, it was a great performance.
Fans on that show, like genre fans, because Mark Hamill appeared on one of their season finales, and he was a twisted psychopath in his own way.
That show has a real big following. You know what I'm watching right now, which I never watched, it was on the air 15 years ago, was 24. What a great series that is.
Yeah.
I also watch The Fall. Have you seen The Fall with Gillian Anderson and the guy from Grey's, or what? Not Grey's, from 50 Shades. She's a cop from London who's sent to Belfast, and he's a serial killer. It's a wonderful series. Luther, I love, with Idris Elba.
Okay.
Beautiful series. I like The Americans, the spy show. But nobody asked. So, my dear, you've been so good. You want to go to round 2. You want to go a second round. You want to talk about sex scenes again? I could go on. With a pill. Go ahead.
Totally non-related to Star Trek or anything.
Ooh.
Because you said that you are from Bethlehem, which we are.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing about Bethlehem that you like, and about this great state of Pennsylvania?
My favorite thing about Bethlehem, I grew up there. So I went to elementary school at Jefferson, and I went to Northeast for junior high. I went to Liberty High School. My dad taught at Lehigh for 50 years.
Wow.
And when I took my kids back, when they were really, really little, I took them down to where I used to first go hiking and then parking, which was Monocacy Creek, down by the mill, where we were first hippies, where they had the concerts in the mill, right under the bridge. So that's my favorite spot in Bethlehem. For all of you from elsewhere, I apologize. Couldn't be more exclusive.
How would you like to see Thomas Riker develop?
Now, Thomas Riker, I'm glad you brought up. Thomas Riker, Riker's clone, doppelganger, whatever that was, in Second Chances?
That's right.
Come on! Second Chances, is that what it was?
Fantastic in it, though.
Second Chances.
Second chances, yes.
LeVar Burton's directing debut. Another wonderful director. The beautiful and talented Marina Sirtis, my Mzadi, says to me, you know, Frakes, Thomas Riker is a lot cuter than Will Riker. And then Thomas Riker surfaces on Deep Space Nine. And again, Nana Visitor, who plays, what's that character's name? Kira. She sends me to Cardassian jail, prison somewhere on some planet. Am I right? And Thomas is still in jail. So I used to say to Ira Bear and to Pillar and to Ron Moore, they were running Deep Space Nine. I said, guys, first of all, I'm here on the line. I'm happy to work again and do something with Thomas. I'm available. Because we were doing First Contact and we did Insurrection, so it wasn't like we weren't around. And the guy's rotting in jail now. I bet his beard's finally turned white. Guys, I gotta hit it. Thank you very much for coming. I'm gonna be out here. Get some autographs. Come on the table. Get some autographs. Life is great. God bless you all. Photo ops tonight. Yeah, photo ops are coming up.